Welcome back, that guy with the face here. I will be going on to part 2 of Katawa Shoujo, starting now. It's been 4 months since my heart attack. In the in the whole time, I can probably count the times I've left this hospital room unsupervised on one hand. 4 months is a pretty long time when you're left alone with your thoughts, so I've had plenty of time to come to terms with my situation. Arrhythmia. A strange word, a foreign, alien one that you don't want to be in the same room with. A rare condition, it causes the heart to act erratically and occasionally beat way too fast. It can be fatal. Apparently, I've had it for a long time. They said it was a miracle that I was able to go so long without anything happening. Is that really a miracle? I guess it was supposed to make me feel better, more appreciative of my life. It really didn't do that. It didn't cheer me up at all. My parents think my parents, I think, were hit harder by the news than I was. They practically had two hemorrhages apiece. I already had a full day by I already had a full day by then to digest everything. To them it was all fresh. They were even willing to sell our house in order to pay for a cure. Of course, there isn't a cure. Because of the late discovery of this condition, I've had to stay at the hospital to recuperate from the treatments. When I was first admitted, I felt like I was missed. For about a week, my room in the ward was full of flowers, balloons, and cards. But then the visitors soon dwindled, and all the get well gifts began trickling down to nothing shortly after. I realized that the only reason I'd gotten so many cards and flowers was because sending me their sympathy had turned into a class project. Maybe some people were genuinely concerned, but I doubt it. Even in the beginning, I barely had visitors. By the end of the first months, my parents came by on a regular basis. Awakano was the last to stop visiting. After 6 weeks, I never saw her again. We never had that much to talk about when she visited anyway. We didn't touch the subject that was between us on that snowy day ever again. The hospital? It's not really a place I'd like to live in. The doctors and nurses are so impersonal and faceless. I guess it's because they're in a hurry and have a million other patients waiting for them, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. For the first month or so, I asked the head cardiologist every time I saw him for a rough estimate of when I'd be able to leave. He never answered anything in a straightforward way, but told me to wait and see if the treatment and surgeries worked. So, I idly observed the scar that those surgeons had left on my chest slowly change its appearance over time, thinking of it as some kind of omen. I still ask the head cardiologist about leaving. My expectations are low enough now that I'm not disappointed any more when I don't get a reply. The way he shuffles around the answer shows that there's at least some hope. At some point, I stopped watching TV. I don't know why. I just did. Maybe it was the wrong kind of escapism for my situation. I started reading instead. There was a small library at the hospital, although it was more like a storeroom for books. I began working my way through it, one small stack at a time. After consuming them, I would go back for more. I found that I liked reading, and I think I even became a bit addicted. I started feeling naked without a book in my hands. But I loved the stories. That was what my life was like. The days became incredibly harder to distinguish from each other, differing only by the book I was reading and the weather outside. It felt like time blurred in some kind of gloomy mass. I was trapped inside, instead of moving within. A week could go by without me really noticing it. Sometimes I'd pause in realization that I didn't know what day of the week it was. But other times, all the things that surrounded me were painfully crash into my consciousness through the barrier of nonchalance as I had set up for myself. The pages of my book would start to feel sharp and burning hot, and the heaviness in my chest would become so hard to bear that I had to put the books aside and just lay down for a while, looking at the ceiling as if I was going to cry. But that happened only rarely, and I couldn't even cry. Today the doctor comes and gives me a smile. He seems excited, but not very. It's like he's trying to make an effort to be happy on my behalf. My parents are here. It's been a few days since I've seen them. Both of them are even sort of dressed up. Is this supposed to be some kind of special occasion? It's not a party. There is this ritual the head cardiologist has. He takes his time sorting his papers, then setting them aside as if to make a point of the pointlessness of what he just did. Then he casually sits down on the edge of the bed next to mine. He looks at me in the eyes for a moment. "Hello, Hisao. How are you today?" I don't answer him, but I smile a little back at him. "I believe that you can go home. Your heart is stronger now, and with some precautions, you should be fine. We have all your medications sorted out. I'll give your father the prescription." The doctor hands a sheet of paper to my dad, whose expression turns wooden as he quickly reads it. So many. I take it from his hand and take a look myself, feeling numb. How am I supposed to react to this? The absurdly long list of medications staring back at me from the paper seems insurmountable. They all blend together in a sea of letters. This is insane. The side effects, adverse effects, contradictions, and dosages are all listed line after line with cold precision. I try and read them, but it's so futile. I can't understand any of it. Attempting to only makes me feel sicker. All this for the rest of my life, every day? I'm afraid that is the best we can do at this point. However, new medications are always being developed, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that list fade over the years. Years? What kind of confidence booster is that? I'd have felt better if he hadn't said anything at all. Also, I've spoken to your parents, and we believe it would be best if you don't return to your old school. What? Please calm down, Sal. Listen to what the doctor has to say. Calm down? The way he says it tells me he full well knew I wouldn't like it. Am I going to be homeschooled? Whatever of my concern shows it's ignored. We all understand that your education is paramount. However, I don't think it's wise for you to be without supervision. At least not until we're sure your medication is suitable. So I've spoken to your parents about a transfer. It's a school called Yakumo Academy, and it specializes in dealing with disabled students. Disabled? What? Am I? It has a 24-hour nursing staff and only a few minutes from a highly regarded general hospital. The majority of students live on campus. Think of it as a boarding school of sorts. It's designed to give students a degree of independence while keeping help nearby. Independence? This is a school for disabled kids. Don't try and disguise that fact. If it really was that free, there wouldn't be a 24-hour nursing staff, and you wouldn't make a hospital being nearby a selling point. Of course, that's only if you want to go, but your mother and I aren't really able to homeschool you. We went out there and had a look a couple weeks back. I think you'd like it. It looks like I don't have a choice. Compared to other heart problems, people with your condition usually tend to live longer lives. You'll need a job one day, and this is a good opportunity to continue your education. This is an opportunity. Don't call it an opportunity. Don't call it a goddamn opportunity. Well, you should be excited at the chance to get back to school. I remember you wanted to return to school, and while it's not the same one, a special school, that's an insult. That's what I want to say. It's a step down. It's not what you think. All the students there are pretty active in their own sort of way. It's geared towards students that can still get around and learn, but you need a little help in one way or another. Your father's right, and many of the graduates at the school have gone on to do amazing things. A person doesn't have to be held back by their disabilities. One of my colleagues in another hospital is a graduate. I don't care. A person doesn't have to be held back by their disabilities. That's what a disability is. I really hate that something so important was decided for me, but what can I do about it? A normal life is out of the question. It's funny, I'd always thought my life was actually kind of boring, but now I miss it. Okay, that'll do it for part 2, and if you want part 3, leave a comment down below. See ya.